Let us begin reviewing for Chapter 6, Pre-Algebra Test. Okay, so we're going to start with Section 1, which is about ratios. So the goal here is to write each ratio as a fraction in its simplest form, and that means we will have to reduce if possible. So number 9 says 10 girls out of 24 students. So this is the correct start, but these can be reduced. Both 10 and 24 are divisible by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 24 divided by 2 is 12. And that's as far as it can be reduced, so we are finished there. Number 10, 6 red cards to 4 blue cards. Those are also both even, so both divisible by 2. Divide 6 by 2. Divide 4 by 2. Number 11, 10 yards to 8 inches, and the book is wanting you to change those units. I'm not going to require that for ratios anyway, so I'm just going to do it as it's written, 10 to 8. You divide both of those by 2, you get 5 over 4. That's as far as it goes. Now the answer in the book is different because they convert the yards into inches, but you won't have to worry about doing that for ratios. 12. Same thing, they have a different answer. They're doing 18 ounces to 3 cups. I'm just going to leave it as 18 to 3. They're both divisible by 3, so divide the top by 3 and get 6. Divide the bottom by 3 and get 1. Again, their answer is 3 over 4 because they converted, I don't know if it was ounces to cups or vice versa, but you don't have to worry about converting things for ratios. All right, now 13. Gene got 12 hits out of 16 times at bat. Express the rate as a fraction in simplest form. So these are both divisible by 4. So 12 divided by 4 and 16 divided by 4. Now it says explain this meaning, or explain the meaning of this. So for every 4 at bats, Gene has he gets 3 hits, which if you don't know baseball or softball, that's a really, really good rate. So for every 4 at bats Gene has, he gets 3 hits. Or you could say he tends to get 3 hits out of every 4 at bats. That'd be fine too. All right, so that completes section 1. Section 2 is about unit rates. This is where we were dividing to find how much it would cost for one thing. So for example, they start in number 14 by saying it's $25.97 for 8 boxes. So if we want to find out how much it costs for 1 box, all we have to do is divide those 2 numbers. Oh, sorry, I forgot to pull up a calculator. Give me just a second. I only have it over here. Tell you what, I will just use the calculator you can see on the screen. So give me a second. I think I have it. Yes, I do have it right here. Okay, so I just type in $25.97 divided by 8. And we'll round to the nearest penny, so it'll be $3.25 per box. Okay, so for number 15, 400 meters in 5 minutes. So we're wanting to know how many meters can they go in 1 minute. So we would just do 400 divided by 5, which is 80. So that means 80 meters per minute. 16, $175 for 4 concert tickets. So we want to know from that information how much 1 ticket costs. So we do 175 divided by 4, and that gives us $43 $2.75 per ticket. Because remember, unit rate, it's called unit because we want to know how much it is for one thing. Like here we want to know the cost for one box. Here we want to know how many meters in 1 minute. What's the cost of one ticket? 17, 125 miles in 200 minutes. So we can divide that. I'll pull this over to help us. 125. So I'm not trying to make that screen look brighter on here. That'll work. So 125 divided by 200. So 0.625. It does say round to the nearest tenth, so we'll just say 0.6 miles per minute. Okay, last one in section 2. An 8-pack of juice boxes costs $4.79. So I'll just go ahead and figure out how much that means those cost. So I just divide $4.79 divided by 8. And that rounds to 60 cents per box. 0.59875, we'll just round the nearest penny. Now we need to compare that to the other one, which is a 12-pack for $6.59. So $6.59 divided by 12. And that rounds to 55 cents. So it is a better deal to get the 12-pack because that's only 55 cents per pack instead of 60 cents per pack. And as far as explaining what's the better buy, that's all you need to say, is that the 12-pack is a better buy because it costs less per juice box. So the 12-pack is the better buy because it costs less per juice box. Okay, section 3, converting rates and measurements. Sorry. So remember, you will have this table provided for you on the test, so you don't have to have this memorized, you just have to know how to use it. And if you're watching this, I'd encourage you to turn in your book to page, let me double check, I think it's 288, but let me check. I think it's 278. Yes, it's on page 278, and I'm not going to keep flipping back and forth to that. I think that would make the video take too long. So I'll just make sure I explain where it is on that table. And I encourage you to have that table open so you can look at it. So on 19, they're asking us to convert 7 inches into centimeters. So we'll say 7 inches over 1, just to make it a fraction. And we want to convert it from inches to centimeters. So if you look, very first line, right under the length, says 1 inch is about 2.540 centimeters. So I put 1 inch on the bottom, 2.540 centimeters on top. And the reason I put the inches on the bottom is because I always want the inches to cancel out, because it's centimeters I want to have, not inches. So since inches started on the top, I put it on the bottom, so just the unit inches cancels out. So then I multiply 7 times 2.540, and I get 17.78 centimeters. Okay, number 20, it's 20 meters to a certain number of yards. So I'll put this over 1, and I got to look at the table and find out how it connects meters and yards. So meters and yards is the third line down under length, and it says 1 yard is about 0.914 1 meter. No, my mistake. Well, you can use either one. The third line has it both directions. So it does say 1 yard is about 0.914 meters, or 1 meter is about 1.094 yards. You can use either one. Either way, though, you got to put the meters on the bottom. So I'll just use the one that says 1 meter on the bottom. That's the one on the right column. And 1.094 yards on top. Now you'll get the same answer if you use the other one. That's completely fine if you do that. But we need to multiply 20 times 1.094, and we get 21.88 yards. Okay, 21, we're trying to convert fluid ounces over to milliliters. So this is going to be in the second section where it says capacity. It's the middle section, and it tells us 1 fluid ounce is equal to 29.574 milliliters. So I cross out the fluid ounces. That's why I put them on the bottom so they cancel out. And 25 times 29.574 is about 739.35 milliliters. Okay, 22, we start with 4 liters. We want to convert this into gallons. So I put 4 liters over 1. I gotta look at the table here. Liters and gallons, that's the last line, the fourth line in the capacity section, the middle section. It says 1 gallon is about 3.785 liters. So I'll put 3.785 liters on the bottom, 1 gallon on the top. So the liters measurements cancels out. And when I multiply this, 4 times 1 on top, and 1 times 3.785 on the bottom, this means I need to divide 4 divided by 3.785, and I get 1.06 gallons. So 4 liters is just a little more than 1 gallon. 23, 18 pints into liters. So I look at the table again, pints and liters, that's the second line in the middle capacity section. And 1 pint is about 0.473 liters. So 1 pint, 0.473 liters. Double check that number. Yeah. So the pints cancels out, and I do 18 times 0.473, and that gives me 8.51 liters. Okay, 24. 12 ounces needs to be converted to grams. Okay, so if we look, this is in the bottom section where it says mass or weight. It's the very first one. 1 ounce is 28.350 grams. So I multiply 12 times 28.350, and I get 340.2 grams, because the ounces do cancel out. So this is the answer to 22. This is the answer to 24. Okay, I'm going to try to slow down a little bit these last two, because they are a little more complicated. So they're going to require more than one conversion. So 25 says a plane is flying at a speed of 425 miles per hour. It says, how far will this plane travel in 0.75 hours? Actually, it won't take that much conversion. I was thinking of the wrong problem, sorry. So here, we know it's 425 miles in 1 hour, and so we want to know how far it travels in 0.75 hours. So we just multiply by 0.75 hours. So 425 times 0.75 And that gives us 318.75 miles. Because the hours cancel out, so when we multiply 425 times 0.75, we get 318.75 miles. Now 26, a swimming pool is being drained at a rate of 50 gallons per hour. So every hour, 50 gallons are drained. Now they want to know how many millimeters per second this is. Now you can convert gallons to milliliters first or hours to seconds first. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to choose to do time first. So I know there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. And I chose to put hour on top, so it would cancel out that hour. And I know in 1 minute, there are 60 seconds. So I put the minute on top here, so it would cancel out with that one. So that converts me into gallons per second. But they also want us to change it from gallons to milliliter. Now when you look in the chart, under the capacity section, that's the middle section, the last line does convert gallons into liters. So that's how I'll have to start. We don't have any conversion on this chart from gallons to milliliters, but we do know 1 gallon is equal to 3.785 liters. Liters. So I put gallons on the bottom, so cancel out there. Then my last step, actually let me take a break. I'm probably going too fast. So we first converted hours into seconds. We did that by converting hours into minutes and minutes into seconds. Now we're trying to convert gallons into milliliters. So first I converted gallons into liters. Now I'll need to convert liters into milliliters. Well, in 1 liter, there's 1,000 milliliters. So that will allow me to cancel out liters, leaving the only units to be what we want, milliliters per second. So we multiply 50 times 3.785 times 1,000 to get the top number. That's 189,250. On the bottom, we do 60 times 60. That gives us 3,600. So our final answer, we'll divide those two numbers, and we'll get 52.57 milliliters per second. Okay, section 4. I think I'm just going to show the, no, I won't do the book. You got the book. So in section 4, we start, sorry about that, 27, they give us a table. They ask us to determine whether the set of numbers is proportional. So this is where we do fractions and see if they're all equal or not. So in 27, we have 1 over 8. That's as reduced as it can be. 2 over 16. Those can both be divided by 2, and they become 1 over 8. So far, we're equal. 3 over 24. Those can both be divided by 3, and it will reduce to 1 over 8. So still equal. Last one is 4 over 32. Those can both be divided by 4, and I get 1 over 8. So all 4 of those are equal rates. So we would say, yes, it is proportional because all the rates are equal. Or you can say all the rates are the same. Okay, 28 also has a table. So we have 2 over 2. That's equal to 1 over 1. Then we have 4 over 5. And that cannot be reduced, so right away we see these two are not equal. 1 over 1 is not the same as 4 over 5. Now you can keep going if you want. You get 6 over 7, still not equal. And 8 over 10 reduces to 4 over 5. So these two match, but it can't just be two that match. They all have to match. So we have to say no, it's not proportional because the rates are not all equal. Okay, 29. A customer at the ring toss booth gets 8 rings for $2. So $2 over 8 rings. Write an equation relating the cost to the number of rings. Okay, so $2 divided by 8 rings. So 2 divided by 8 is 0.25. So that means it costs 25 cents per ring. So the cost is 25 cents times the number of rings. At this same rate, how much would a customer pay for 11 rings? So you just plug in 11 for R, and 11 times 0.25. Thought I could do it in my head. I'm apparently not sharp as I should be. It's 275. So 275 for 11 rings. And then it asks about the cost of 20 rings. So you plug in 20 for R, and that will cost you a total of $5. So we use this first piece of information to figure out that if it's $2 for 8 rings, we can divide that and see that it's 25 cents per ring. That allowed us to make this equation. The cost is 25 cents times the number of rings you get. So if we want 11 rings, we multiply by 0.25 and get 275. If we want 20 rings, we multiply by 0.25 and get $5. Okay, last section, section 5. Here we are doing solving proportions. So 15 over A equals 5 over 4. We cross multiply, so 5 times A equals 15 times 4. Then we divide both sides by the coefficient, which is 5. So we get A equals 12. 31. M over 6 equals 18 over 15. So we cross multiply. M times 15 equals 6 times 18, which I think is 108. Let me double check. Yes. Then we divide both sides by the coefficient, which is 15. And we get 7.2. (32) 28 over 24 equals D over 12. So we cross multiply, 24 times D, and then 28 times 12 is 336. Now we divide both sides by 24. We get D equals 14. Okay, 33. 16.5 over 21 equals 5.5 over T. So we cross multiply. 16.5 times T equals 21 times 5.5, which gives us 115.5. Then we divide both sides by the coefficient. And we get T equals 7. Last question, real estate. A homeowner whose house is assessed for $120,000 pays $1,800 in taxes. Okay, so I'm going to set up a proportion for this. Their house is assessed as being worth $120,000, and they're paying $1,800 in taxes. So now we want to know, what is the tax on a house assessed at $135,000? So since we put the house's assessment on top of this fraction, we've also got to put it on the top of this fraction. Now what we don't know is the tax. So the tax goes on the bottom. We don't know it, so we just put an X. So you do have to set this one up, but after that, it's the same as the first 4 problems we did in this section. So we associated the assessment or the value of the house to its taxes, the value of a different house to its taxes. So we cross multiply, we get 120,000 X, and we multiply 135,000 by 1,800. It's an enormous number. I think I'm putting the commas in the right place here. 243 million. Then we divide both sides by 120,000. So the tax for a house at this value would be $2,025. Study well, practice these problems. You can practice homework. I also encourage you to read over your notes again so you remember what we've learned.